Hello everyone, welcome back to GGN. This is part 5, the final part for today. My website is ggnonline.net, although I'm not really sure how many people are able to access it. My YouTube channels are ddarko2012 and ddarko2013. If you're interested in one of these headlines, just, it's right here. Just type it in a Google search or search engine, and you should be able to find it fairly easy. I'm going to cover social engineering, and I had a commenter, I think it was a subscriber, I'm not sure, basically kind of bashed me about covering this homosexual agenda, and I guess my reply would be, is that, this is the 5th video. This is an hour and 25 minutes of content, of news. I'm covering all kinds of issues. So he was saying, why focus on this as a distraction? Well, I'm covering all the issues, so that kind of gives me the right to be able to cover this, because I'm covering all kinds of other issues, so it's not a distraction for my viewers. And also, it's my channel. Gay Russians seeking refuge in Canada in wake of homophobic new laws. As the Western world gangs up on Russia ahead of the Olympics to draw attention to the new anti-gay laws, Canada's foreign minister has publicly decried as hateful. Those inclined to flee the increasingly repressive regime may be looking here for a safe refuge. Alright, so they give some sad stories about people that have left Russia. They said they've had 2 people so far, so it's not a huge influx. They said it's too early to indicate. But it goes on here and says that this one individual who spent most of his life savings to get to Canada says that that basically he likes it, and it's better than Russia. Disowned by his family and kicked out of his home after they learned that he was gay. Even his own brother threatened him with violence. He lost his job working for a gay rights organization when it was shut down by authorities, and he would face harassment and violence both within and outside the gay community. If U.S. lawmakers call for Olympic gay rainbow flag parade to embarrass Putin. So who's behind it? The guy who made the last quote, Chuck Schumer, staunch Zionist. A week after senior U.S. lawmaker Senator Chuck Schumer called Russian President Putin a schoolyard bully on Monday, he urged athletes marching in the Olympics next year to wave the rainbow flag to show support for gay rights and embarrass the Russian leader. Funny, because the United States is the biggest bully on the planet, yet he's saying that Putin is a bully. That's funny. He says he resents that Russia is no longer the major power in the world that it used to be. I'm not really sure that it was, and when it was being propped up by democratic countries such as the United States, funneling billions of dollars in aid to the mostly Bolshevik, Jewish-run USSR in the stages of World War II to keep them going to defeat Germany, and that's what we had, and everybody knew that they weren't really much of a threat. So what they are scared of is Russia actually becoming a threat to the Western power structure, the financial power structure. And I've covered this before, the rise of the Russia bear, 18 signs that Russia is rapidly catching up to the United States. Saying that they're stronger, more powerful than it ever was before. Sadly, most Americans don't understand this because they still think of Russia as an ex-superpower that was rendered almost irrelevant when the Cold War ended. The writer says once Putin became president, the Russian economy started to grow very rapidly. Of course, this is post-Soviet era, where the Russian currency was so worthless that they joked that they could go exchange a $20 bill and buy the Kremlin. They produce more oil than anyone else on the planet. The United States is in 3rd place. They're number 2 oil exporter in the world. The U.S. is forced to import more oil than anyone else in the world. They produce more natural gas than anyone else in the planet. The United States is 2nd. Today, Russia supplies 34% of Europe's natural gas. U.S. has a debt to GDP ratio of 101%. Russia has the same ratio of 8%. U.S. has a trade deficit of more than $500 billion, where Russia consistently runs a large trade surplus. The U.S. has an unemployment rate of 7.4, where Russia has an unemployment rate of 5.4. According to Bloomberg, Russia has added 570 metric tons of gold in the reserves in the past decade. More billionaires live in Moscow than any other city on the planet. And I'll leave off with this one. The U.S. has the most powerful military on the planet, i.e. they're bully, but Russia is in 2nd place. Vancouver police and officials would not uphold laws against public nudity at Pride Parade. So, goes on here and it says that when homosexual news service Daily Extra reported last week that both Vancouver police and city officials confirmed that they had no issues with public nudity at the city's annual Gay Pride Parade, LifeSite News deemed necessary a fact check with the Guardians of Law and Order. So they make it illegal to be nude in public areas, Section 174. So it says here the August 4th gay parade mentioned only scantily clad revelers in skimpy attire. Last year's parade was attended by a group of men called Foreskin who exposed their genitals in the city streets. So I just heard a YouTuber talking about this yesterday, about how where in a lot of the protests you see these nude homosexuals protesting their gay agenda, whether it's fracking or anything, and the Fed. And it's almost as if they're being put there, staged there to just to show you, right, that this is at the forefront. No pun intended, right? It's funny. So they asked them if the police would basically uphold this Section 174, the gay pride parade, and they replied, "Unfortunately, your question cannot be answered with a simple yes or no answer that you appear to be looking for." So, very sarcastic reply there by the revenue collectors in Vancouver. Scottish man fined $62,000 for homophobic Twitter message. So this is a Scottish man. He's going to be sued a lot of money, basically in damages, after he sent a message on Twitter calling a lesbian same-sex marriage advocate a danger to children. So lesbian sued David Shuttleton, an antiques dealer near Glasgow, for defamation because of his remarks about her homosexual activism. Calling people who disagree with his anti-gay campaign normalphobes. They told the Daily Record it's an absolute scandal that homosexuals have got such power in our community. It's an absolute scandalous abuse of our laws. On that note, gay principal at Ontario Catholic School loses license over partner's sexual abuse of students. A former principal of a small Catholic school in Ontario has had his license revoked by the Ontario College of Teachers for ignoring the repeated sexual abuse of students by one of his homosexual partners. So this is something, it's kind of a sad story. I don't condone this violent stuff. I like to call out that there is an agenda going on here, and you'll get people like this who think that they're comfortable, kind of like that Russian in the story. There was actually beaten up, and it was a long story, but basically he thought that his lover was cheating on him or something like that, and he went to the police because he was being threatened by one of these homosexuals, and he went to the police, and basically they left him hanging there. He ended up coming out to one of his friends who he thought was gay, was actually straight, and he ended up getting beat up. But it says here Dwayne Jones was relentlessly teased in high school for being effeminate until he dropped out. His father kicked him out of the house at age 14, but also helped jeering neighbors push the youngster from the rough Jamaican slum where he grew up. So international advocacy groups often portray this Caribbean island as the most hostile country in the Western Hemisphere for gay and transgender people. So here's the catch-22, or the mind trip, as I like to put it, is that, I don't condone the violence, right? So then it's like, okay, and I don't want laws. I just want to point it out that this is an agenda. So, if you're like in Russia where you legislate stuff like not propagating, or basically gay propaganda being illegal, and having these gay pride parades where they run around naked, that's also illegal in Russia too. So if you do it like that, you're going to be claimed by these Western free nations, as they call it, as a homophobe, right? Homophobic Putin, homophobic Russia. That's what I just covered recently last week. And then, of course, if you taking out violence against these individuals, then what? Then you're a homophobe. So if you're someone like me that's just talking about this stuff, you're going to be considered a homophobe. New company allows organizations to hire fake protesters. So if you have no one supporting your cause, no problem. You can hire supporters, even protesters. A company started last October. They provided for a service. So they call it Crowds on Demand. Said the business is doing extremely well. So it says here that when a reporter asked a paid protester in the above image what this protest was for, he told the reporter, "It's a day to ban guns, I think." The event was actually for a new movement called Purge Day, dealing with mental illness. Isn't it funny? This is kind of like how it was with those Boston protesters. I think it was for Obama during the election. They didn't even know what they were there for. It does make sense that this guy over here is dressed like a zombie, right? And speaking of zombies, you got these PETA activists, right, who care more about animals' welfare than people's welfare, like people getting drone bombed. Butter cow doused with fake blood at Iowa State Fair. So, animal rights group has claimed responsibility for dousing the famed Iowa State Fair butter cow with fake blood. The sculpture was covered in red paint early Sunday with the phrase "Freedom for All" scrawled on a viewing window in the front of the cow. French minister to meet farmers after egg smashing rampage. So, the Minister of Agriculture is set to hold a crisis talks with farmers after producers smashed 500,000 eggs on the roads, demanding that egg production be reduced by 5% in order to raise prices. This is kind of like Walmart, right? Do it in bulk and volume and undercut the competition. Have a nice little monopoly going. And a lot of these dairy farmers and these beef ranchers, not beef ranchers, but the beef industry, highly monopolistic, not much competition. And that's where I will agree with those people, those activists, which is, these cows, factory farms, and with cows and the eggs and stuff like that, these animals being exploited. And, people should wake up to that. They should start to buy stuff that doesn't have growth hormones. They should try to buy it locally if they can. There's a lot of laws, with raw milk and that and eggs to try to prevent you from doing that. How drugs pumped into supermarket chickens pose a terrifying threat to the health. So, talking about several hundred eggs precisely arranged in rows. Once in position, the machine robotically lowers itself and simultaneously punctures each egg with a rack of hypodermic needles, then mix of vaccines and antibiotics injected into the egg. Why do they do this? Because there's so many, like the cows. They're so close together, compacted, they're disease prone. It sounds something like a science fiction, but today, this is how the large-scale poultry production is, basically. Every year, more than 40 billion chickens are slaughtered worldwide for meat, the vast majority of them intensively factory farmed. Filipino farmers destroy genetically modified golden rice crops. Activist farmers in the Philippines stormed a government research facility and destroyed an area of GMO rice crops the size of 10 football fields. They say they have not been established to be safe for consumption and that the real solution to world hunger isn't biologically engineered plants, but a reduction in worldwide rates of poverty. France confirms it will continue ban on GMO corn despite council ruling, which says that basically it violates European Union law. This is what they try to do with Russia with the ractopamine in the beef, and pretty bad stuff, and they don't want it, and they're saying that they're violating trade laws. I think WTO laws. What's behind the GMO labels? You can type this in here. It says here everything you need to know about genetically modified foods. This is Russia, but it says here which are GMO so far: potatoes, beets, soybeans, rice, pumpkin, rapeseed, tomatoes, and corn. And Russia imported foods labeled natural can contain GMOs, while GMO-free foods are labeled 100% natural. Proper certification producers can label products GMO food, and soy concentrates in food usually contain GMO. I love this. With the help of GMO scientists, help solve the problem of hunger and food insecurity in developing countries, but 130 research projects shown that GMOs are no more dangerous than traditional plant breeding technologies. Never mind the study of the French study showing big, gigantic tumors in these mice. They're going to make people put this, as far as the GMO labeling, like that girl was saying, just label the damn what is GMO. Make it very clear for quote consumers, right? But don't make them put this up here, this little disclaimer, so that it tricks people into thinking, oh, well, the government says there's no difference. Well, changing technology enables crops to take nitrogen from the air. So new technology developed in England enables all the world's crops to take nitrogen from the air rather than expensive and environmentally damaging fertilizers called nitrogen fixation, which process where nitrogen is converted to ammonia is vital for plants to survive and grow. The majority of plants have to obtain nitrogen from the soil. So this N-fix is neither genetic modification nor bioengineering. It's naturally occurring nitrogen-fixing bacteria which takes up and uses nitrogen from the air. The plant seeds are coated with this bacteria. MIT, a material that could make solar power dirt cheap. A new type of solar cell made from a material that is dramatically cheaper to obtain and use than silicon could generate as much power as today's commodity solar cells. It could lead to solar panels that cost just 10 to 20 cents per watt. Right now they cost about 75 cents a watt, and the U.S. Department of Energy says 50 cents per watt will allow solar power to compete with fossil fuel. Splenda goes from safe to caution after leukemia found in mice. A food safety group has downgraded its ratings for sucralose, the artificial sweetener better known as Splenda, from safe to caution in its chemical guide to food additives. So, if you got to wait for these people to tell you, these authority figures to tell you that, then I guess, the other thing, GMO, just go ahead and eat it and kill yourself, you know, make yourself nice and sick. Just like GMO, Monsanto. Previously, the only long-term animal feeding studies were done by sucralose's manufacturers. And I'm going to stop here, and I might do 6 parts, so join me in part 6. This is GGN, I'm Darko. Thank you.